Hello everyone, this is Amrit from University Canada, and today we are here at Pierre Poilievre's rally for a change, and let's dig into it, what they have to say about it, about the elections, and I'll get back to you with the review of the public. Let's get to it.
Hello, Vaughan. So Canada, here we are at a crucial time where we must decide whether we are going to elect for a fourth term a Liberal government with the same team who has left us with a weakened economy, rising crime, unaffordable food and housing, or are we going to elect a conservative government who's going to put Canada first for a change? Now, in order to bring that change, you have to make sure that you go out and vote. So tell me, who has already voted here? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This journey began for my husband and my family about 3 years and 2 months ago, when my husband decided to run for the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. Ever since, he has been traveling from coast to coast to coast so that he can step away from the Ottawa bubble and to hear people directly. Because what we need is a government and a leader of the people, by the people. Leadership is not born in the boardroom of the elites. Leadership is not born from fancy titles or degrees. Leadership comes from true patriotism, true love for our country, our true north, strong and free. Now it's true, my husband has been doing this for most of his adult life. He has been right here at home fighting for all of us, our youth, our families, our seniors, and that is something to be proud of. So when Mr. Carney says that my husband doesn't know how the world works, I'll tell you what. My husband knows how Canada works and how to make it work for all of us. My husband, he was born from a teenage mother who gave him out for adoption to 2 school teachers from Saskatchewan. They worked really hard and they lived paycheck to paycheck. Pierre worked for everything in his life and nothing was handed to him. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela. Muchos latinos aquí presentes esta noche. Es un orgullo de poder representar y ser una voz fuerte para la gente latina. I was born in Caracas, Venezuela, and my family immigrated here in 1995 when I was 8 years old. My father is here tonight. When my family arrived, my dad had to trade his business suits to go and work and pick up fruits and vegetables because that's all he could do to feed our family. He taught me that there's no greater dignity than to provide for your own family, and all work is dignifying. Thank you, Dad. So, by the time that I was 17, I had moved out of home and become financially independent, 100%. By the time that I was 19, I left Montreal, moved to Ottawa, took a student loan, put myself through university, and had a full-time job at the same time so that I could pay for rent and food all by myself. By the time that I was 25, a few months before I met my husband, I was working in the Senate and I had saved enough money to put a down payment on a little town house in the east end of Ottawa, all under my dad's advice. Thank you. So that little townhouse, it was $230,000 in 2012, 3 years before the Liberal government took office. That was the Canadian promise. And that is what my husband is fighting for, to restore the Canadian promise so that we can afford homes, we can afford a future on safe streets. So ladies and gentlemen, this is who we are, the Poilievres. We are one of you, you are one of us. We're all fighting in this to restore the Canadian promise, and we need all of you fighting along our side. And that is why it is my pleasure to share with you my husband, the next Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you, Vaughan. Thank you, Vaughan. Who's voting for a change in Canada? Who's voting to axe the taxes? Who's voting for homes you can actually afford? Who's voting to stop the crime for a change? And who's voting to bring home the Canadian promise? Thank you very much, Vaughan. Great to be here today in the LiUNA. Thank you very headquarters of LiUNA. A great, are there any laborers here, hardworking people? You know, when I think of LiUNA, I learned of this union. I used to go over to my buddy's parents' place for dinner on Sunday nights. They're old, classic Italian family. Yeah. There aren't any Italians in Vaughan, are there? One or two. And anyway, the grandfather would sit at the head of the table. His name was Albino, and he couldn't speak any English. He and his wife had come from Italy in 1973, from Calabria. Calabrese? Okay, that's half the room is Calabrese, I think. And he had this plaque on the wall. It said LiUNA. And the only time I ever heard him utter an English word is I pointed up at that and I said, "What is it?" And I didn't know at the time. This is about 20 years ago. And he said, "Pension." That was his pension. He got off the boat, 73, got a job, paving roads, and he earned himself a pension. But the house that they lived in was about 7 or 8 minutes from Parliament Hill in downtown Ottawa, a G7 capital. And they actually paid off their entire mortgage in 7 years. Can you imagine that? That was Canada. That was Canada back in the 70s and 80s and even 90s and even the 2000s. As Anna just told you the story about how she was able to afford a home independently, having a decent job, out of school, from a modest background. Now that family that I told you about, he's now, as Albino, God rest his soul, has moved on. And his granddaughters will graduate from university. They speak perfect English. They would not be able to make a down payment on that house, even if they worked non-stop for 15 years. In Toronto and the greater GTA today, it takes 29 years to save up for a down payment on a house for the average family. Everything costs more. Food prices have risen 37% faster under this Liberal government in Canada than they did in the United States in the same time period. After catch and release Liberal laws, crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are overtaking our once safe streets. My friends After a lost Liberal decade of rising costs and crime, we cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. We need a change with a new Conservative government. And it turns out we have a plan for that change. It's called the Change Platform for an affordable life, for safe streets, for Canada First. This is the plan to bring change to Canadians. It is a clear plan, a plan that will cut income tax by 15% so that your hard work pays off for a change. It's a plan to cut the Liberal deficit by 70% with less bureaucracy, less consultants, less foreign aid, less money wasted so that inflation comes down and your dollar retains power for a change. It is a plan to axe the sales tax on new homes and incentivize municipalities to cut their tax to bring down the cost of buying a house by $100,000, again, for a change. It's a plan to lock up criminals so that you're safe on your streets again for a change. Who's this? Who do we have here? What do we have here? Oh my goodness, what a bright young lady we have. What is your name? Trinity. You want to come up on the stage? All right, come on up on the stage. There you go. Come on over here, Trinity. Wow. Can you come over here? Show everybody in the crowd what your sign says. Do you know what it says? Can you read that to everybody?
Axe the tax, fix the budget, stop the crime, bring it home.
We are a nation of explorers and entrepreneurs, of artists and adventurers, of workers and warriors, of pioneers and patriots. Together, we will bring home the country that we knew and love, a country that protects its vulnerable, secures its borders, rewards its workers, unleashes its entrepreneurs, honors its history, upholds its traditions, rebuilds its military, and flies its flag. Together, we will rebuild the promise of Canada so that anyone who works hard gets a beautiful house in a safe neighborhood under our proud flag. Canada first, Canada always. Let's bring it home.
So 10 years ago, Liberals said they'd bring affordable housing. Since then, they've doubled the rent, doubled mortgage costs, doubled the needed down payment, double housing trouble.